And as you can see, this is a blast from the past. This is one of the original logos that was created for me 6 years ago when we launched this TV talk show. At the time, I had some people who worked in Hollywood assisting me launch this program, and this was one of their things. So I had it hiding for a long time, but now I think I'm going to bring it back because it's cool. On my screen, it looks like the words going around on the loop are backward, but are you seeing it correctly as it should be?
Well, it is. I'm going to use the term counterclockwise, but Ed, that is fine. I'm going to interject right here. Your background always, it seems always to be very appropriate because right now your background reminds me of yesterday's Artemis 2 launch. And I was listening to the commentary, the coordination within the control room and the various places, the various disciplines that had to report in. Yep, we're a go. And the teamwork, Ed, the teamwork. It is all reminiscent of my days in the military and working together as a team. And one of the things I emphasize with leaders is that is the kind of teamwork. When we have it together like that, we can function extremely well. But Ed, everything of your background and the remembrance yesterday of the launch team and looking forward, that's the kind of teamwork that we want to inspire with the people with whom we're talking.
USA, that's technological strength.
Yes.
Happy to be a part of that. Okay, today's show is about lack of employee autonomy. I have to read this. A central theme. This is according to AI Gemini, uh, because I'm a know-nothing. I'm just a reporter. Lack of employee autonomy is a central theme in modern workplace culture as it directly impacts engagement, innovation, and retention. So Gemini has been following us, Ron. He says, or she, based on the points of discussion in your correspondence with Ron Cooper and general knowledge on the subject, here is a perspective on the key aspects of employee autonomy in the workplace and what that topic entails. The core issue of lacking employee autonomy refers to a scenario where employees have limited or no freedom to make decisions, no input to take initiative, and that they are on their own managing tasks independently. Gemini says this is caused by overly hierarchical structures and micromanagement. Ron Cooper.
Yes, and Ed, engagement. That's one of the very operative term, engagement. Can you and I, can those within our sphere of influence feel they are totally engaged with us? I frequently speak of, can you feel that you are in the moment with me? Part of that, Ed, is in the context of innovation. Do we feel we can think innovatively? And again, we've talked about it before. Not every, in fact, there's going to be a high degree of innovative thought that is not going to merit going forward. But if you don't accept the innovative thinking, the various thoughts of, well, not that, but if you can improve on whatever, then but will I engage with you? Will I engage in the leadership? I will if I feel you value my thinking. And I won't if you feel that, no, that's just another dumb thought. And not too many leaders are going to verbalize that. But if I sense through our relationship, our interaction, that you are saying to me, perhaps non-verbally, well, that's just a stupid thought. I can't believe you would. I just don't waste my time with those kind of ideas. then I'm going to feel that, well, nope, you don't value my thinking at all. And maybe I'll isolate myself from other people because they might think that I'm off with my thinking. I want to be with people who engage in and actually stimulate innovative thinking, because Ed, we can think of a lot of different people who, through innovative thought, have brought about different things. And yesterday, Artemis 2 launch. And I think a lot of people at least know of Elon Musk. And so there's a lot of innovative thinking there. And can people generate an idea and say, well, tell you what a great start. That innovative idea is, can we build on that? And again, one of the aspects of the Artemis 2 launch team, as I am listening to the various coordinators, or the launch coordinator and the 20 some odd teams that are integral to having a safe launch. Everyone has to operate as a team. The communication has to be there. Are you doing your part within your team? And do we have your thumbs up for a go for launch? And yes, the team came together, and yes, we have we're ready for launch. We have a very successful launch, and we now have Artemis 2 that is in process to make a trip around the moon, and we're doing something that we haven't done in many decades. Ed, I'm rambling
Like
here a
50
little bit.
years or something, right? 50 years?
It's been 50 years. Yes.
I kept forgetting how old I am.
Yes. And so it's been a long time since we have done this, but we're taking a trip around a part of the moon that we've never seen before. And so, man, all of the technology, the teamwork that has to come together to support the four crew members, the four astronauts who are on this ride, but we're functioning as a well integrated team. And I will tell you, Ed, as I listen to the coordination of the various teams up to launch, I was just so impressed. That is the kind of teamwork that, when we are functioning totally together, that is, we're totally engaged, to return to that word, we will have a very highly functioning team. And there's a lot of innovative thought that goes well beyond what I can think of. NASA, what all did you have to do to make this launch possible? And Ed, I marvel at what the innovative mind can do. And again, in the context of artificial intelligence can do repetitive activities faster than we can, but I'm not a believer that artificial intelligence is going to think beyond what the human brain can think. So when the human brain is energized, we know people on our staff are appreciated. We want to do what we can to inspire engagement, innovative thought. We're going to have some very, very highly functioning teams. The net result is we're going to have high retention. We're going to have some very innovative thought, and we are going to advance each other because we share information with each other. We will not isolate ourselves from each other. Ed, that's a whole lot of things I just said right there, but that is what we in the Cooper culture, when we work with businesses, that is the kind of culture that we stimulate in through executive leadership.
Well, thank you for that. And as you know, this is recorded and going out live worldwide right now. But people will see the subsequent to today as a result of massive distribution across YouTube, but also LinkedIn and all the various connecting multimedia that I employ. The show is not political. It certainly is impacted by geopolitics, and that's why I'm about to say President Trump is not a space expert at all, but he's the executive, and NASA and all their people and everybody connected down the supply line, they made this possible. And so what do you think about what I just said?
Oh, I'm in total agreement with you, Ed. I do think that the president, our Congress budget makes funds available. What is it we choose, we corporately, and as our government is structured, the three branches of government, how do we bring about a budget, and what are the general thoughts of those who are in the voting? What are their general thoughts about innovative funding or funding for innovative projects? And Ed, I'm totally on board with that. But some people may think that, well, NASA, I am not going to take part in flying around the moon and so forth, but yet the technology that is gained through that innovative thinking does frequently benefit those of us who are advocates of, but not necessarily directly participating with NASA. So I totally endorse everything of the innovative thinking that NASA is producing right now.
So we're going to move on here about the primary impacts of this environment that we've described a few minutes ago, lack of employee autonomy. And I'm just using the notes from Gemini's uh, setting me up to understand what Ron Cooper is an expert in. So uh, here is a subheadline. The primary impacts of this environment, once again, what is the environment? Lack of employee autonomy and the feeling of that internally. And they say overly hierarchical structures and micromanagement. So headline here, lower motivation and disengagement. Their note is, without the ability to exercise judgment, employees feel disconnected and their intrinsic motivation decreases. Now, that is middle management, or is that upper management at fault?
It can be all of the above. And Ed, I believe that the senior leader, the CEO, whatever the title, is responsible for setting the culture within the company. Now, employee disengagement, or I'm going to use the term hierarchical, that there are those that are, okay, executive vice presidents, senior vice presidents, whatever the title is, whatever the wording is on your business card. Yes, you have a position. But now, does that translate to being a good, effective leader? That just the fact that you have a title does not entitle you, nor does it make you a leader. A leader is a person who engages with people. They bring the very best out in people, such as, Ed, I know your talents. I know exactly what your strengths are. And I want for you to feel that you are totally engaged. I want for you to be totally engaged with our company. I mentioned a little earlier in this conversation that hierarchical could make a person feel that, well, I do not have a title of executive, senior, whatever. And if you hold that title over me, then I feel that I am here, you are there, and you want to make certain that you are senior and you are higher in authority than me. If that kind of environment exists, I'm always going to feel very subordinate to you, Ed. Yes, that could feel, I mean, it could be a part of my personality, but yet, if that hierarchical structure, that if that's a part of the culture and that exists, you will not necessarily get the best from me because I feel there is that separation amongst us. I am not good enough to communicate with you. But when when effective leaders engage everyone in the organization, We've made it clear what our longer range strategic objectives are. We know the nearer term tactics, how we're going to reach those longer term objectives. And Ed, your part of this is your very strategic thinking, your talents, and you know exactly how you fit in this organization. And we have a culture where we do share information with each other because you have talents, you have strengths, you have perspectives. I don't. But when we feel comfortable, we can share with each other. I don't feel threatened that you will advance above me. Therefore, I'm going to withhold information. No, we have a culture where we are totally engaged. Ed, to me, that is a part of the engagement. Am I all in with this company? And that has a lot to do, it has everything to do with the culture of the company. And do I make you feel, when I say make you feel, I'm not trying to force you into anything, but do you actually feel, no, Ron, if I'm your leader, Ed, Ron knows me. He nurtures me effectively, and I am not over the top of you every day and micromanaging you because that's a very type of environment where I'm not going to produce as well as I could. But that micromanaging has to do with autonomy. Do I have the freedom to think that and offer ideas that advances the company, or do you feel you have to constantly watch me? And so Ed, that is a part of being all in and being engaged. That's a culture.
Uh, Excellent. Thank you. Then their next subheadline, once again, the first one was lower motivation and disengagement. And now we're going to move on. The next headline, slower decisions and less innovation, dot, dot, dot. A restrictive environment with rigid protocols and centralized decision-making stifles creativity, problem solving, and organizational agility. That's exactly what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, and have I complied with some sort of set of rules that well, if you have an innovative idea, submit it on a piece of paper, or you got to submit it online, and well, we'll maybe review it within 90 days. And if you haven't heard from us, just know that nope, we didn't. We decided not to move forward with whatever it is you submitted. And so, Ed, that to me, what I just said is very contrary to productive organizations. I don't want you to assume that if I did not communicate with you, no, I want you to know that got your input. We are assessing that. And if it did not move forward, if it doesn't warrant moving forward, just say that no, I value your thinking, but this doesn't warrant moving forward because. And with that, I will at least know that you have evaluated my input, and I can continue on with ideas. Again, it's very possible, Ed, that 85, 90% of innovative thoughts are not going to warrant going forward. But if you turn me down, if you think less of me, if you talk condescendingly to me, you will not get the 10% of the ideas that might warrant going forward. That I'm not going to risk any condescending talk kind of thing. But that can happen within an organization. Some leaders will say, "Oh, we would never do that," but yet some of your staff feel that is the culture that in which they're having to deal, and they're going to be very reluctant to forward any innovation and feel totally engaged.
So, uh, in the back of my head, I'm picturing somebody like Dr. Ken Lloyd, who couldn't be with us today, would say that's the reason for frequent feedback sessions, so that
And
you communicate what you're thinking, even though you may not enact that idea, is certainly appreciated and it adds to the context.
it does. And so he has coined the term feed forward.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the feedback, but it's a continuous communication with people that as it's not a formal environment that, well, we're here to document and so forth. But no, it's I want to encourage you. I'm here to encourage you that please keep up the innovative thinking in and quite honestly, Ed, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. But for some of us, our best thinking is in the morning. For some of us, the best thinking is in the afternoon. I find it very difficult to believe anyone who says, no, I'm at 100% all throughout the day. I don't believe that. We function best at some part of the day. And so my best innovative thinking will be necessarily in the morning. And so that's where my highest productivity, if you were to map out on a graph, well, when am I most productive? It's going to be in the morning hours. I'm a little bit less so in the afternoon. Doesn't mean I can't work in the afternoon. It's just that, okay, my best productivity is maybe in writing, maybe in innovative thinking, that kind of thing is going to be in the morning. And then beyond that, maybe some of the lesser or maybe some of the more mundane tasks, nuts and bolts kind of thing, maybe that's best for me to do in the afternoon. But as we leaders understand people and the way we think, we can encourage people, inspire them to function at their very best throughout the day. And so that's all a matter of knowing each other.
Would you, as the leader, C-level, in an organization, put what you just said out in a memo saying, let's have a town hall sometime about, but before we do that, tell me, send me a message. When is the best time for you for creative thinking? Morning,
And
afternoon?
Ed, I would not do that in a town hall meeting. That some people are going to say, "Well, oh my gosh, this is strange talk." No, I'd want to do that one on one with you, Ed. And there's some people, the introvert would be slow to say anything, and so no, just no one on one. And this is a conversation to where I want to learn about you, Ed, and I personally, I believe that we're not at 100% throughout the day. And so, um, Ed, you may feel you are, and I'm not going to try to talk you out of that, but I'm just going to believe that you're probably better at various parts of the day. And so you tell me what part of the day you are, and I'm gonna have one-on-one conversations. And and so I will document all of this mentally, and I will be able to form an idea that, let's just say that I'm the leader of whatever division, and I'll be able to have a pretty good idea of how we function best as a team.
So we're going to move on here. The next headline is in this train of thinking about dialogue and communication with staff. The problem of increased burnout and turnover. Then they note here, lack of control over work is a key contributor to employee exhaustion and frustration. Lack of control, causing employees, especially top talent, to ghost, to secretly seek out workplaces that offer greater trust and freedom.
Yes, and Ed, you and I have talked somewhat frequently about trust. And when there's trust, you don't have to monitor me throughout the day. Am I working? That trust factor is, yes, Ron, your values are such that I don't have to, uh, let's say, have a security camera over your work desk or anything like that. But the trust factor is, yes, you know exactly, I know exactly what your talents are and so forth. And when a person feels they're under tight control, and that is, Ed, you and I possibly have each been in various environments where, golly, I just feel like you're constantly watching over me. And why is that? I don't feel like I have the autonomy I would like to have. it seems to me you don't trust me. You feel you have to literally walk by, or from the coffee bar, the whatever, walk by, and you're checking up on me. And but we should be able to communicate in a way that I am producing, and but it doesn't require you to constantly observe me wherever I am. Those are the kind of things, Ed, that we need to be able to know each other and be able to work in an environment to where, yes, we know exactly how to communicate with each other to know that we're each moving forward, advancing our thoughts. But that's just some of my thoughts of how we can inspire our employees to be fully engaged. Because quite honestly, Ed, everyone wants to know they're appreciated. Everyone.
So let's move on. What are the common causes of limited autonomy? I think you're addressing that right now. They say the absence of autonomy often stems from ingrained management practices and systemic issues, and then managerial fear of delegation.
Yes, and delegation is one of the challenges many
The lack
leaders
of
have.
control, is that a lack of control worry?
It's a lack of control, but it has to do with trust. That Ed, I want to delegate to you a task, and we have trust with each other. Trust in that we will communicate well with each other. I can know the current status of the way things are because you and I communicate well. And that could be 1 minute per day that you've given me an update of where we are with things. And so with that, I have delegated to you. But some leaders don't feel that they trust themselves enough that they can delegate a task to someone that they feel that, well, I'm not. Whatever it is, I don't feel that I can delegate that to you without standing over top of you to know exactly where we are because my boss is going to hold me accountable for something I delegated to you. And when that level of insecurity pervades itself through an organization, you're going to have people that feel that, well, I just don't feel comfortable delegating because I am going to be ultimately held responsible for. And for me to be held responsible for, I've got to know exactly, virtually every, not, it's an overstatement, every minute of the day, exactly what you're doing to ensure that you're going to make me look good. And so,
So, yeah, so the net effect is that according to this, and I think that's where you're going as well, creating a culture of dependency
that's
rather
exactly.
than independent, innovative processing.
And that's exactly what the net result is. That ultimately, yes, it is a culture of dependency. And I do want to help leaders create a culture. And you've got to know yourself. You must. I use the term fly. First, lead yourself. And so, as you can understand, as you know yourself, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I have vulnerabilities. That as I am comfortable knowing myself, I can know what I need to do to delegate well. And yes, that autonomy is exactly what we're referring to there. But I do have to know myself. I have to be comfortable with myself.
I'm learning so much from this, Ron, so thank you. And thanks for playing along with me using Gemini here. But it's really helpful. I wish I had this capability to understand, and with these tools that we have right now, when I was 27, 30. Man, I was lost.
But I'll tell you, Ed, that, and I frequently tell people our past will never define us except by our choice. That, yes, if we learn from our past, and it's a much longer story, The first 2 decades of my life were pretty much a write-off. I had no confidence. Ed, if I were now what I was in the first 2 decades of my life, I can promise you I would not be able to have this conversation with you. So I've learned from the past. I've overcome, and I speak on words matter. Words matter that I process different things said to and about me in a way that I felt much less of myself. There were times, literally, Ed, in the first 10 years of my life, I could go 2 weeks without saying a word to anybody because I didn't want anyone to engage me in conversation to where I felt they may question something. I, well, why do you think about that? Well, you would disagree with me. I just do it. And so, Ed, that was a part of my early life to where I had no confidence. I wouldn't talk with you. Very briefly, 4 men helped me progress beyond that point. And I was in my early 20s before I felt I had enough confidence that I could even have this kind of a conversation with you, Ed. But I've learned from the past. And so I'm passing forward to leaders that it's almost guaranteed someone in your organization is like I was. And we're not labeling or stigmatizing anybody, but just understand that when you are willing to invest time in people, you will help bring out their very best.
Okay, so we're about halfway through or more of this planned time. I'd like to talk about, I'd like to hear from you, talk about, not me, strategies for cultivating employee autonomy. Do you want to
And I
address
think,
that?
yeah, I'll be happy to, Ed. Again, the acronym FLY. First, lead yourself. Do you know who you are? In the context of words matter, I want to help people and I work with people to help inspire them to not react emotionally to events because when we do, the words can come out. The tone of my voice can have a very negative impact. And I'm going to tell you that's a lot of what happened in the first 2 decades of my life that I churned in my mind that, well, I for some reason did not know. Therefore, I'm stupid. And that's what processed in my mind for a long time. Words matter. So rather than be reactive to what people say and do, I will work with people to try to help them be proactive. Yes, something was said, something was done. Now, can I instinctively think about a response that I know how I might respond emotionally if I allow my emotions to get out in front of me. But can I think about that instinctively to where I respond rationally, how to whatever a person said or did? Ed, that's a lot of knowing who I am. And when I am a team leader, I want to bring in people who complement me, complement my weaknesses. Ed, you have strengths that I don't. I want to have you on my team because I know I can turn to you that I have Ed, have I thought through this aspect of whatever we're working on? And you, I know, would compliment me because I'm very confident in telling you what my weaknesses are. So, in the context of a culture of autonomy, again, I want to feel comfortable in being able to delegate. Have I equipped you to know how to fulfill a responsibility that I want to delegate to you? That's my responsibility. I have to make certain that you feel comfortable with that. So you and I would talk about that, Ed, and I would say, okay, Ed, I'm going to delegate this to you and just give me a periodic update of how we're doing with this. And if at any point you feel that, I'm not sure I know how to handle this or what to do, then we will conversively discuss that because it's my responsibility to equip you to know exactly what I want to delegate to you.
So, in doing these talk shows with people like Dr. Ken Lloyd, but also Paul Falcone and Stephen Howard and Ken Summers and others, I'm learning so much. I wish I knew 50 years ago. I'll tell you that. So we're talking about strategies for cultivating employee autonomy. And so that refers to me as the company, doesn't matter what size, the company is a learning organization, learning, talent, learning, and development. And the role of the management structure is, according to this, cultivating employee autonomy. The Gemini is saying here, the solution involves a fundamental shift from top-down to collaborative, trust-based approach. Just what you said. Your internal discussions already touch on several key strategies to counter this problem. These are bold-faced headlines now from Gemini. Prioritize psychological safety and trust. We've already discussed this a lot.
Yes, and I will say, in the context of Stephen Howard, he coined the book Humany, and that includes the word harmony, human harmony. And Ed, but what I mean by human harmony, and I think Stephen Howard would agree with this, is we will discuss any differences we may have between us. We can civilly separate primary from peripheral issues. And a primary issue would be values, and a peripheral issue would be virtually everything else. So, are we able to create a harmony as a culture value within our company where no, we always discuss civilly any differences we may have? And we may be very different on any number of things, but is that a primary issue or is that a peripheral issue? And we can be very different on peripheral issues. We just need to be aligned with the core values of the culture, the company, and what we're here to do for the customer. And so, Ed, to me, that's a lot of what humany or harmony is all about, that you and I can and will discuss civilly any differences we may have. And one more time, you and I can vehemently disagree on any number of peripheral topics, but that will not inhibit us from innovatively working together, sharing together, and working together as a very cohesive team.
Welcome into the global meeting room. Trust is built on the belief that vulnerability is safe. It's supposed to encourage teams to be safe to engage, not just obey. Leaders should model vulnerability and demonstrate a genuine desire to hear ideas.
And Ed, I think you have just very recently, 2 minutes ago, discussed an aspect of vulnerability in your life. You wish you had known when you were 27-year-old what you know now. And let's just say that that would have never happened because what is available now was not available maybe when you were 27 years old.
Well, thank you.
But we
It takes the
learn.
weight off my head.
Okay, right there. But we learn from our past. And so we're not a victim of, but we're going to pass forward what we have learned. And so we're always going to say, okay, that's something to the effect, that is something I want to carry forward. And so we learn from those past. But I know in the context of family, we frequently carry forward the culture in which we were raised because, quite honestly, we didn't know any different. That's just the way we were raised. It's not until we read, we're associated with, we compare what we're in with someone else's thinking, and we think, yeah, I like that. And so I will make a conscious decision not to carry forward whatever it is of my family past, whatever it is of the business past, that culture. I'm going to do something different. So we will necessarily change the way we're doing things. In Ed, in the context of change, I want everyone in my family, I want everyone in my company to know exactly why we're making the change. It's not just because, well, we're going to try something different. No, we're making the change because, and the reason we're doing this has to do with core values. And when I can relate change to core values, you'll know exactly why we're making the change and exactly how we're going to do it. But I'm making a very conscious decision to make the change, and I'm telling you exactly why we need this change. But when we have the culture of doing all this and bringing all this about, we will increase employee and family engagement.
Safety. Autonomy
And
is more than just working remotely. It's about giving people choices in how their work is done. You can
not
empower
yep.
employees by providing task autonomy, allowing team members to decide how to get from point A to point B once the goals are set. The goals are set by you.
No, that's exactly right. In task autonomy, that's aligned with your strengths. Ed, you are particularly good at in task autonomy. Now, I brought you onto the team, Ed, because you have that talent. I don't. You do. And so, Ed, I'm going to hold you, I'm going to delegate to you, and I value your thinking. And when you are working at your best, you are going to be your best at whatever that talent is. And I will tell you, I'm going to give you one example of this, Ed, that when I have put a plan together, when the team has put a plan together, I do want to rely on somebody who can say, if this plan were to fail, and right now, Artemis 2 comes to mind. If the thousands of systems that have to function exactly right for everything to be successful, if anything were to fail, where will it fail? And I want the critical thinker to think, here's where it will fail. And so, to a degree, they're negative thinkers, but yet, if there's a weakness anywhere in this process in our leadership, where might it fail? I want that person to help me analyze, and they are better thinkers than I am of that process. Where might this team fail? I want for that person to speak up and say, well, here's what I perceive as the quote weak link. And we let's study that a little bit further. But Ed, that's the kind of talent I need on my team. In some ways, those are negative thinkers, but yet I need that kind of a person to tell me where any plan may fail.
So yesterday's show with the idea of how Christian Turnetin, uh, as a leader in the mobility program, talent mobility program of the corporation that he's working for, he talked about that kind of thing, about trying to remember his exact words, but it was about things are going to get screwed up. So if you think it through, then it's a project management approach, and you know things can go wrong here and there along the process. So you think it through, and you try to have somebody there to watch for things. If this happens, then we've got to implement that change. Do you remember
Yes,
that
yeah.
conversation yesterday? And
I
this is
very
exactly tied in. It's the same thing.
I very definitely do. And what we help leaders do is critical thinking. And I emphasize continuously do what if analyses. What if the weather goes bad? What if the power fails? What if the cost of fuel goes up? And what if we have crime increase in the area that we're going to relocate people? What if? And so, Ed, as we go through what I consider this what if analysis, we will have thought through maybe 85% or so of a solution that should that occur, we know how we will respond. I can relate to the captain on an aircraft who might say something to the effect, Folks, this is your captain speaking. We will necessarily need to cut our flight short today because whatever the reason is, but the tone of the voice, the confidence you hear in the captain is, I sincerely apologize for the disruption, but I want to assure you everything is going to be fine. We're going to land at an alternative airport. It's going to cost a little bit of time, but we have taken care of all of your arrangements and so forth. In the context of Christian Ternedden, what if analysis? What if various things were to happen in the context of relocation? Yes, we've thought into that. And here's how we would help you handle that situation. And Ed, the more we can purvey confidence in people, the greater the confidence and trust they will have in us. You've already thought through this. You've already thought into this. Wow, that's very comforting to me. And as a passenger in an aircraft, you're not in control of what happens in the cockpit, but you can sense the confidence in the captain's voice. Just sit back and relax. And I apologize that there's for this disruption, but your safety is paramount. We'll get you there safely. It's just going to take a little bit more time. And so, Ed, I don't want for you to be apprehensive. If you're a passenger in my aircraft, I don't want you to be apprehensive about that. But if you are one that's being relocated in my company, I want for you to have the confidence that, nope, I've thought through everything that may cause you apprehensive about being relocated.
We have about 8 minutes remaining here. They want to go on here in this decision-making autonomy idea, giving team members authority to make decisions related to their own work, such as setting priorities and solving problems. But I would think that if you're going to do that, you as the leader, you would want them to give you advanced feedback with a written outline of what those priorities and problem-solving things are they thinking about?
And yes, and Ed, I'm going to respond to you by saying that the decision that has to be made, we have some amount of time to think about it, think into it, think it through, as opposed to the captain of the airline, the pilot, who's saying, "Yep, we've got an in-flight emergency, and I have to know right now how to handle this emergency." And right now, my thought goes to Sully Sullenberg, who landed the aircraft in the Hudson River. He and I flew together at Homestead Air Force Base. So
Way to
I
go.
don't know that he'll remember me, but I'm going to tell you one thing, Ed, that I think if Sully were here with us right now, he would say, that's just the way we pilots think. That Sully, had 37 seconds to think about what just happened. What are my alternatives? We are trained to think through these things, and I am going to make the very best decision I can. And so I have been trained to think exactly what I need to do to get this aircraft safely on the ground, albeit it was in the water in this case. But Sullenberger knew exactly what he was going to do, and I have no doubt he spoke with the people in the airplane with a confidence. We're going to be fine, folks. And Sully was the last one off the aircraft. He was the last one off because he wanted to ensure everybody got out of this aircraft safely, albeit we're on water. But everything is planned ahead in the context of an emergency. Everything was done. So that's an example, Ed, of being able to equip people that you know how to handle different situations. My responsibility as a leader is to equip you to be able to handle different situations such that I can delegate to you. And we can dialogue, Ed, that I'm going to help you think through different things. And if you feel uncomfortable, how you would think into and think different things, and let's say we have some time to make a decision what we're going to do. Hopefully, you and I feel comfortable. Yep, you have thought through it, Ed, and I appreciate the way you think. And yes, I agree with you. But then there may be times that I would say, well, Ed, have you thought about? And that's where we complement each other. And you may say to me, no, actually, I did not think about that. And let me tell you what, because you brought it up, let me go back and think into that a little bit more, what the impact of that is. I don't think less of you because of that. That's how cooperative thinking occurs, and we're functioning well as a team. But when you feel, Ed, that I'm not demeaning you, I'm not, to use again, the hierarchical term, because I have responsibility that's greater than yours right now. I'm not thinking in hierarchical terms. In other words, I'm not going to think condescendingly of you that you're a lesser person. No, we're in this together. And so when you know for certain we're in this together, we're thinking it through, that yes, you feel comfortable that I am an integral part of this team, and that team cohesiveness, that approach is going to bring out the very best in you because you're in the moment with this. And again, it's my responsibility to equip you with the thinking that is going to bring about the best result because you've thought into everything.
So he and his co-pilot were like 2 minutes ago on the ground at LaGuardia and now up over the Hudson River. And there was no wind apparently that day, so there was no big chop or waves. And then they had to figure out how to come in at what speed under the George Washington Bridge, perhaps, and then set down in such a way to not create waves and in time for the rescue boats to circle around quickly and get people out of the water as fast as possible. And so they did all that while flying around.
And that's exactly what it was. And so Sully had to determine, do I have enough fuel? Do I have the thrust available to get me into an airport on a hard surface? And he said, no, I cannot. And Sully and the co-pilot were the ones who said, nope, we can't do that. We right now have to come up with an alternative. What is the best alternative? Is landing on a highway with traffic the best alternative? No, actually, that's not a good alternative because almost certainly there's going to be some amount of death occur from that. And so Sully had to make the decision, and he would certainly bear the responsibility for the decision he made. But he's processing all of this in the few minutes available to him. What can I do? What can the aircraft do with the engines and so forth, the bird strike, et cetera? What options do I have? And it's the way we think inside the cockpit. We have very few options, and so as we are descending and we're processing exactly what we can do, what options are available to us, we would come to the conclusion the only option available to me is to land in the Hudson River. And oh, by the way, okay, prepare for it, folks. And I'm going to try to land in the best area I can and try not to hit any of the boats. Everything turned out just right. But again, Ed, if we were to reconstruct everything, all of this occurred in a matter of a few minutes.
So they're summing up here. Provide the why. Leaders must clearly explain the rationale and strategic context for assignments or policy or organizational changes, just like you were just saying. They say this transparency and showing the mental work provides clarity and supports nuanced decision-making, which in turn unlocks autonomy. And I'm going to ad lib here, seems that it also unlocks fear. In other words, it diminishes fear by the showing of strength and understanding of what the risks are and what you're doing and explaining what that process is. That creates so much trust, doesn't it?
It does. And Ed, explaining the why to your staff. Why are we making this change? Why are we doing things the way we are? Am I just being flippant about it? Or do I have an exact reason for this? Why am I making this change? And it has to do with, I'm going to explain exactly why. And my hope is everyone benefits from the change. But knowing everyone in the company on my staff, I will know exactly any adverse impact this may have, whatever the change is. But we need to make the change because, and I have thoroughly thought through this. And Ed, I know the impact of this change on you. And if it is a potential negative impact, I want to talk with you first. And here's the reason I'm making this change. Here's a potential negative impact, but I want to explain this to you. And what I'm doing is I'm demonstrating, Ed, my care for you. And so it's your choice if you stay with the company. My hope is you will. But Ed, I pledge to you, and you are, it's hopefully I've developed trust with you that I know the potential negative impact, but we will help you work through and endure whatever the negative impact is this change could potentially have with you. And so I would hope, Ed, with that level of communication, trust that we have with each other, you would elect to stay with me in the company because you know I care. And so that is the culture in which we want to engender the trust because we respect everybody in the company, and that is will create longevity and loyalty when our staff knows we have that level of trust with them.
So we're talking with Ron Cooper. What you've heard today in the last 55 minutes or so is exactly why the cooperculture.com is the place to learn more and meet. This is a genuine article, this man right here. That's what I feel really fortunate to be able to produce and present to you, the audience, US and worldwide. It's all about offering flexibility and empowerment to people, providing flexibility in work arrangements so that employees can be a key differentiator in retention. Thank you, Ron Cooper.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate the opportunity. And if there are any senior leaders that feel that we just don't have the loyalty, the retention, and anyone on your staff who may not feel comfortable delegating tasks, if you feel maybe the trust is not really there, we would love the opportunity to talk with you about where you are and how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And we will work with you to customize an approach to your company. Thank you for the opportunity, Ed.
Global TV Talk Show is a unit of globalbusinessnews.net. Thank you for watching. Reach out to me at publisher@globalbusiness.media if you want to be a guest on the show or if you have any feedback whatsoever. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Ed.
Happy Easter.